Well, welcome to this episode of the Hardman Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Kahn, and joined today by a very special guest, Mr. Kevin Sorbo. Kevin, thanks so much for joining me for this episode.
Good to be here. I'm glad you guys could wait for me. I was supposed to be on half an hour ago, but I was on a plane and everything was late. I cannot predict planes or drivers.
Especially today. Planes have been notoriously difficult. Flight schedules difficult.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of craziness, Kevin, going on in the country. Politically, and one of the things I want to talk about with you today, specifically with masculinity.
Yeah.
There's just a war, it seems, going on against men. So I want to ask you about that. Do you see that? What do you see happening?
Well, it's been going on for decades. I just think in the last 10, 15 years, it's just accelerated on itself. And you see all these people, we started doing, it was like the 60s when I think we really started doing stuff, and it was just crazy about this whole thing about making men more like women and women more like men, have this androgynous society. It's insane. Men are men, women are women. We're different. We equally have wonderful things to give to each other in the world, but we're different. It's as simple as that. And the book I'm doing right now is called Lionhood, the Test of Lionhood with Brave Books. And it's about letting boys be boys. Let them grow up to be boys. Let them grow up to be men, strong father figures. Look what they've done to sitcoms over the last 20 years, 30 years. Actually started back in the 70s, where the man is he's kind of out of shape. He's kind of a doofus. The mom is a hot babe, and the teenage kids, all they do is make fun of dad. And you got these kids watching all these sitcoms, growing up watching it, and they've learned to say, hey, the father figure's not important. The father's there's not an important thing with a father. You used to have Fathers Know Best. You had Andy Griffith, who was a smart guy. All these great shows that showed fathers in a strong position. Now it's like every movie, unless it's going to be Thor or something like that, they're the big tough guys. But most movies, the women are the ones that kick ass. They're the big tough ones out there. Yep. So I said, okay, we really going to believe this. It's fantasy, but this whole thing, we're going to believe this. Then maybe we should get rid of all the men out of the armed forces and just make it all women, because they're obviously much more tougher than men. Walt Disney said in the 1950s, movies and television will influence our youth. That was in the 50s. I think old Walt was right, and I think Walt is flipping over in his grave right now what Disney has done to his name.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One other question I want to ask you, Kevin, is it seems like you look at the political scene, you look at everything going on. I know you've been on the Timcast, you've talked a lot about what's going on politically in the country. It seems like there's a bigger agenda here in play than simply just a few people don't like men. But it seems like a lot of politically minded people benefit from men being weak and families being weak. Do you see that? Do you think it's true?
Well, I think there's a total destruction of the family unit. I mean, when I saw BLM's manifesto, and they took it down relatively quick, but I printed it out, and the top of it just says, get rid of God. Get rid of the family unit. We believe in Marxism, and we want to destroy capitalism. We believe women's being pregnant is equal to slavery. Really? So maybe if all women stopped having babies in 100 years, there'd be nobody left on the planet. And, that would make Bill Gates very happy, because I know he wants to get rid of planet. We're overcrowded, apparently. I love that Elon Musk came out and said we could comfortably fit all 7 billion people in America alone. I fly over this country a lot. I see a lot of nothing down there, guys. So it's insane that we're doing this, and yet people just get brainwashed by the mainstream media. They get brainwashed by television and movies. Andrew Breitbart said it best. He was a dear friend of ours, rest in peace. He said politics runs downstream from culture. Who runs the culture? Hollywood does. And look at the stuff they're putting out there. Climate change. They've been talking climate change since the 1920s. Who was it that said, was it Al Gore? No, Kerry. Ambassador Czar Kerry of the climate change. He said that the North Pole would be gone by 2014. He said this back in, 15 years ago. Well, I don't know. It's still there, dude. Things are still, Al Gore became I think he's like a billionaire now with this whole inconvenient truth. Yeah, it's an inconvenient truth because you don't show the whole graph. You don't show that the other, back in 1910 and 1900 and all that, where the carbon's levels were. We're not anywhere near what they say it is, but they love controlling us, and people are brainwashed. You got Leonardo DiCaprio going out there and saying, "Oh, it's snowing now, and it shouldn't be snowing because it's climate change." It used to be global warming, and then we had like a really cold couple of years in 2014, 15, 16. They said we better change it. It's called climate change. Yes, it is. It's called seasons, and they've been around for a long time.
Yeah, no, exactly. Kevin, one of the things that's really interesting about this is you look at, as you said, culture and what Hollywood has done.
Sure.
People like yourself, right? You've spoken up. Your Twitter is blown up. You say a bunch of stuff that's not PC. You're not supposed to be allowed to say it, yet you're saying it. But it's also cost you personally.
Sure.
I know in the past you've talked about the silent majority. There's a lot of people who probably agree with you, but are afraid to speak up. So
Yeah.
talk to that constituency about needing to speak up.
Well, you say it's controversial. I don't think the truth is controversial, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So my Twitter account is very sarcastic truth. It's just truth. It's one more level beyond Babylon B, where Babylon B is able to get away with a lot more than I do without getting warnings. I mean, I love the fact that there's fact checkers for Babylon B. It just cracks me up.
Yes.
But I got Facebook took me down 2.5 years ago for posting the truth. And I posted on Twitter because everything I was saying about COVID, climate change, all these other things, now have been proven that what I said was, of course, fact.
It's true.
But they'll never put me back on Facebook again. Why can't they come out and say, you know what, we were wrong? But even Fauci's coming out and say, well, maybe the shots weren't really working that well. You think? Take
Yeah.
1, 2. Let's change. Okay, take 1 shot. COVID, 2 shots. You still got okay. Take a booster shot. What's the freaking difference between a shot and a booster shot? 4 shots, people still getting COVID. 8 masks and shields, people still getting COVID. This is all about fear. This is all about controlling your life. And I swear to God, more people are waking up right now. Thank God for that. But I want my Facebook account back. I posted on Twitter. I said, I need more conspiracy theories because all mine have come true. So
Yes.
I think I said a couple years ago with COVID, I said, you want to get rid of COVID, tell the Clintons COVID's got something on them. And I think we'll magically they'll commit suicide for some reason. Hey, look, it's been going on for such a long time. We're fighting back. I'm a victim of cancel culture before it is even a term, a phrase. My manager and agent back in 2012 said we can't work with you anymore because you're conservative and a Christian. Oh, God forbid. God forbid I have a different point of view than our holy government and the insane people at MSNBC and CBS and all these networks. It's just crazy out there.
Yeah, no, completely crazy. One of the things that you guys have emphasized over the years, this ties into the children's book,
Sure.
is the need for Christian education and for Christian, teaching for kids. We see this all the time, right? You have transgender story time. So just speak to that. Why how did that get in the mainstream, first of all? And then how are there so many Christian parents who are sitting on the sidelines not doing anything about that?
Because they're wusses, just like so many pastors out there right now. We got woke pastors out there. These guys, they got to remember they work for God, not for government. And I walked into when we left California, thank God, 5 years ago. And one of the first churches we went to, even in Florida, we walked in there. They were all very, oh my gosh, because of my movies like God's Not Dead and Soul Surfer, Let There Be Light, what if? And I sat there, and 5 minutes into the pastor's sermon says we have to apologize for being black. I looked at for being white. For being white, we have to apologize. I looked at my wife and I said, are we done here? She goes, yeah. We stood up and walked right out in the middle of it. They saw us go. I wanted to send a message loud and clear. This is just stupid. It's insane what we're doing out there. And we're brainwashing these kids as well. And I keep saying the sheep are going to be the sheep. And we got plenty of conservative Christians out there that are bloody sheep, and plenty of Christians that don't even vote. It's like, I've heard the statistics like over 50%. That's insane. We get the governments we deserve because the left is more organized in their hate and their anger. And we got guys like Soros and Buffett, all these billionaire guys funding this, which is it's weird to me because they've had success. They've had success in the capitalist system, but they don't want any of you to have any success as well. So I said, we need to wake up the lions. And that's when Brave Books got a hold of me. I got a book. I haven't unpacked yet, but here's the cover of the book right here, Lionhood, the Test of Lionhood. And it's about letting boys be boys. Let kids grow up. Let them be kids. Because your 7-year-old puts on your dress doesn't mean he wants to be a girl now. My kids did that. My kids are 6'5" and 6'4" and fully men. And my son wears at the gym, he wears embrace masculinity when he goes.
Oh, I love it.
And this whole thing about toxic masculinity, it was interesting. There was a woman, very pretty woman, mid-20s, a mix of, Chinese, Japanese, whatever. She was interviewing women of different colors, different races on the college campus. And they brought up, what do you think about this white, what white privilege and white, masculine? They went off and just ripped holes in men and they get all the breaks. And so then she said, so what what privileges do men have that you don't have? And they just got blank.
They got
Well,
nothing.
I can't think of anything right now. And I just start laughing. You just bitched about it for 5 minutes. And then when you ask the question, they go, oh, I'm late from my class. I got to go. So they look just, and once again, it shows the ignorance and the uneducated stupidity of so many of these people under the age, under the age of 35, that because they grew up in this, in being indoctrinated, starting way back in kindergarten, all the way through, elementary school, junior high, high school, and through college. And now all these teachers are from that. And that's why in school, they want to show transgender movies instead of, they go, wait a minute, but you're a math teacher, right? And it's just weird. I love the fact there was a school, and I'm sure you saw the story, it just happened a couple days ago, when they said that anybody can go to any bathroom that they want to go to. And they staged a walkout.
Yeah, I saw
These were
that.
all these 16, 17-year-old kids. And I said, good on you guys. Because this isn't crazy. This is crazy what we're doing right now. It is simply insanity. You want to pretend you're a dog or a cat or something other? Fine. But quit shoving it down everybody's throat and try to make us believe in this fantasy, because it's not real.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of the things I saw you tweet recently, Kevin, was make men masculine again. And this seems like a very air is, something we breathe type comments. But there were a lot of people who were upset about this. As you start to think about how we put the pieces together, maybe it's the pastorate, maybe it's different politicians, maybe it's parents waking up. How do we actually do that? How do we begin to make a culture that no longer vilifies God's design for the sexes?
Why can't we see both sides of the issue? Why can't you see the other side of climate change? What just as many scientists on the other side, probably more, disagree with this global warming. Why can't we educate kids? Let kids make up their own mind on that. I'm in Hollywood. I've done so many movies. I've been on set with so many people that are gay. You won't find one that says I was a horrible person, because I don't care.
Yeah.
If you want to be a transgender, be a transgender. I'm friends with Bruce Jenner, who's now Caitlyn Jenner. I've known the guy for 25 years. But at least he waited till he was 60 years old to finally make this move. There's so many kids already, it's proven, that when you start doing this stuff, when they're 7, 8, 9 years old, by the time they get in their 20s, they look at their mom and go, why did you do this to me for? How can I make up my mind? There was a great video out recently where this guy said, here's $5,000 to a 7-year-old, and here's 2 Oreo cookies. You only have one. Which do you want? All the kids took the cookies. It shows you they don't have the knowledge to go, wait a minute, that $5,000, I could buy a lot more than 2 cookies.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is wrong with me saying I don't get mad at them for saying I have to embrace this and embrace that. I can disagree. Why do they get mad at me? They're so angry. All they have is anger and hate in their lives. And it's really sad to me that we can't have a conversation without them wanting to yell and start a fight. It's like, look, you want to be gay, be gay. You want to be a transgender? Be old enough to make that decision on your own. Not influenced by teachers, not influenced by parents that are obviously off the cuckoo's nest. But let them get old enough. Let them get to be 18 at least to say, you know what? I've been in my wrong body. You think that way? Fine. You think that way. But why do we have to shove it down everybody's throat all the time? Transgenders in sports? Form your own league. Have transgenders have their own league. It's already proven all these men going into these sports are
completely dominating women. Yeah.
And that parents allow it cracks me up even more. It's just sad to me. Pull your daughters out. Take all these schools and say, you know what, we're going to have our own track and field thing on our own outside of school with all the schools in our conference. We're going to have our own thing. And let the transgenders, let them have their own Olympics. I'm sure it'll be a big television thing for CBS. I'm sure it'll make a lot of money.
Kevin, it's interesting you mentioned that. I'm thinking back to, obviously you're in Hercules. So this is mid to late 90s into 2000, something like that.
1993 to 2000. Then I did Andromeda from 2000 to 2005. And since then, over 80 movies.
80 movies, wow.
They're not all good, but I'm staying busy.
Well, we all know your best work was you were a bounty hunter in one episode of Psych.
Oh, so, yeah. Right.
That's but you go back to say Hercules, that era. Was Hollywood the same then as it is now? Did you see all these problems at that time?
No. I knew that Hollywood was more liberal than they were conservative,
but not like this.
I never hid where I stood in my politics. But back in the late 80s and even in the 90s, we could have conversations about it. But like I said, things have just really drastically changed a lot. I remember, when Obama was running for president, he said, once I'm president, I'm going to fundamentally change America. And I told my wife, I said, had you told me just before we got married, once we're married, I'm going to fundamentally change you, I would have walked right out the door. you know, I mean, it's amazing to me. Here's the thing. People give up so quickly now. They fail once and it's government's fault and God's fault or God they don't believe in or your fault or my fault. And I just want to sit around and collect unemployment now and hopefully I can riot and I can be paid by George Soros. We know he's paying for this. So it's changed a lot. It was not nearly back when I was there back in the day. It was much more civilized. Liberals need to look at the definition of the word liberal. It pretty much means everybody's point of view is okay. You're the ones who are open to everybody's suggestion. But now it's like, boom, it's just this narrow road that they make you go down. Freedom of speech, tolerance. It's a one-way street with Hollywood. And they brainwash so many people. And you're right. Every movie I've done over the last, I'd say 8 years, I get, if not one person, I get a dozen come up to me privately. Thanks for being a voice for us. And I go, be a voice for yourself. Well, I'll get blacklisted like you. You know what? I'm not doing big movies. I'm not doing big TV shows anymore. They're not going to invite me. And I'm still making movies, though. SorboStudios.com. Please go to SorboStudios.com. A lot of great stuff there, a lot of great movies. Why can't I have my voice? Why can't I have my opinion? Why is there a cancel culture out there? We live in a world now where people can say anything about anybody, 100% lie, and they don't care. And we're now guilty before being proven innocent. There's a video from Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi, such an amazing woman who's she's running for office again because she's done such a great job for her constituents.
She's still alive? I didn't even know that.
And San Francisco is going so well. And she said, it's out there. You can see it she says, we spread the smear. Doesn't have to be true. We spread the smear. We give it to you guys. She's pointing to all the press. You guys take it and you run the story and you keep running it. And pretty soon the smear becomes truth. And we hurt people. She goes, that's just politics. So they admit to being liars. They admit to being scammers. They admit that they control Wall Street. They all become very wealthy off of Wall Street.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly sad what we turn into. And why can't either side get rid of mail-in voting? Get rid of it. It's simple. You vote one day, the day of the election. Well, there's people that are, in the hospitals. Then you send people to those hospitals. But you get one day and you show bloody ID. There's nothing racist about showing an ID. And we'll have more honest elections because right now it's horrible. It's very, very corrupt.
Yeah, one of the other things too, you think about one of the masculine traits that we're told, Genesis 2:15, men are to protect, to work and to keep. So protection is embedded
What's wrong
in
with that?
male DNA. It's great. It's the way God made us. One of the questions I have always had, though, and I want to get your take on this, when you think about open borders, you said this recently on Twitter. It's like saying you can't have locks on your doors, or better yet, you can't even have doors on your house. Yeah. It seems like it violates the principle of men being protectors. So talk to me about open borders. Do you think that's true?
Well, look at it. Biden's let 5 million people in the country, and he's only in 3 years into his presidency. I mean, it's unbelievable. Trump, I think, had 1.4 million in 4 years. 5 million. And it's mostly men. It's mostly Army-age men, 35 and younger. They keep saying, we're letting families in. No, you're not. Look at the lines. I've seen the videos. My wife went down there because a friend was shooting a documentary. She went down to Brownsville, Texas. She saw what's going on. And you see guys coming in with 30 kids.
That's 30 real.
Young, like 12-year-old. Oh, these are all my cousins. And they'll go straight into sex trafficking. And we sit there and just let it happen. And the minute the hypocrisy shows again from cities like New York and Chicago, when you start busing these people to these illegal aliens coming into the country, they start, I was just in New York doing 3 days of press, and people were up in arms, very mad about all these people. Oh, but you said you're a sanctuary city. Now you don't want them here? Because they figure they're so safe and so far away from the border, they're not getting they're getting a small taste of what just comes across the Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona borders every single day, California too. And who are these people? Who are they? I mean, we're setting us up for something bad. I mean, it's not going to be good. And they want to keep it open. You can't even get our president and vice president to go down there. They sit there and they deny. You can show them the truth. They don't care. They can say my favorite color is blue, and the next day they'll say red. Well, we have you on tape. There you are saying blue. No, no, no. I said red. I mean, you got there's an E in blue, so I think that E in red meant red. You guys just misunderstood what I said. I mean, it is amazing how lying is just so commonplace in our political people that we put in office, that we need to get rid of them. We need to get rid of all of them. They need term limits. Why can't we have term limits? And why aren't they teaching civics in school anymore? You know why? They don't want kids to realize it's we the people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been another thing to go is the Constitution. I also want to ask you, too, we were thinking about, you were talking about child trafficking. Obviously, the film that came out recently, there's a lot of people getting behind that, Sound of Freedom.
Sure.
This got a lot of negative press, though. A lot of people saying it's made up. I just want to get your take. I mean, you've seen it from the inside. You see these issues all the time, as you said, seeing it at the border. Why do you think they were so adamantly opposed, the mainstream
because
media,
they're all
to this
they're all
movie?
pedophiles. They're all pedophiles. I mean, to sit there and say that the movie is fake. I mean, sex trafficking is a real thing, guys. I think it's the second biggest moneymaker and about to take over drugs pretty soon. And every year you hear about these sex circles that get broken up by cops when they finally get a hold of them. But for them, when Hollywood came in, it couldn't even get behind a movie that showed the evil of sex trafficking. I'm looking at my wife going, so are they admitting that they're pedophiles, that they like having sex with children? So I don't know, it's weird. What's the name of the woman, Christine? Who's the one that got arrested for Pedo Island?
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, and it's like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What, they still don't have a list of names? Of course they got the list of names. But there's too many powerful people in there, and probably on both sides of the political aisle that have been down there.
We know who Lauren Boebert is dating, though. We do know that.
Yes, that was easy. And when what's his name was hung himself in a high security prison cell for some strange reason, the camera wasn't working at that time. It's really how much more obvious does it have to be to people? I mean, if I wrote a movie like that, people go, "Oh, come on, what do you think, we're idiots?" Yeah, I do.
Actually, yes.
Yep.
So there's got to be, like yourself, there's got to be good people, kind of in your circles as well. What's your sense of that? Do you think it's growing? Do you think that there's more pushback now than you've seen before? What's that like?
I think it's growing. I think people are. I think this so-called silent majority. I think more and more people are finally waking up and saying enough is enough. Enough is enough. We got to do something about this. Like I told you, I get these people coming up to me on the sets all the time and saying it. And I get through Sorbo Studios. I get a lot of people from Hollywood that are camera guys, that are grips, that are script supervisor, whatever, saying, "Hey, I would love to work on a movie with you. I like the movies that you're doing." And so they're out there, and they're getting tired of it. We had a group in L.A. years ago called Friends of Abe, and it grew to about 2,500 strong. I mean, people know about it now. It's disbanded since then because, the people that put it together, they did what they wanted to do to show that, look, there's 2,500 people willing to step up to be at these meetings and saying enough is enough. There's just this one-sided issue. Why? I don't get angry for someone that's an atheist. I don't get angry if someone doesn't, believes differently than I do. I really don't. I'm all for it. Why can't we just have a friendly discussion about it? You may change my mind, I might change yours, or we might just walk away feeling stronger about our position. But to be shut down completely, to have this whole cancel culture thing it's so incredibly one-sided, it's got to end. It's really got to end. Now, I brought up a movie because I got to bring this up because I got a movie opening in October, and it's called Miracle in East Texas. We'll get back to Brave Books in a second because I know they want me to talk about that some more. But Miracle in East Texas is a true story set in 1930. And it's a wonderful, wonderful story about these two con men that went through Oklahoma and Texas, right in the heart of the Depression. They would woo widows out of their money on fake oil wells, sell 500% of the share, declare a dry hole, and go to the next town. By the time they get to Kilgore, Texas, they strike oil by accident. Largest oil find ever.
Really?
The movie's won 10 film festivals: Best Comedy, Best Romantic Comedy, Best Faith Movie, Judge's favorite, audience favorite, family favorite. So it's rated PG. You can take your 6 and 7-year-old to this movie. I'm in it. I directed as well. John Ratzenberger's in it. Lou Gossett Jr. is in it. Tyler Main, my wife Sam Sorbo's in it. It's a wonderful movie. Please go to sorbostudios.com. You can find out more stuff about my book there as well, but sorbostudios.com. Click the link, buy tickets now. Because look, I get stopped all the time because of the movies I've done. It isn't Hercules or Andromeda. It's my family-friendly, faith-based movies. And people say, make more. Well, we're a low-budget movie. It doesn't look low budget. It's a great movie. But what I'm saying, we don't have $100 million like they do for these avatars where they can put a commercial in every football game and every soap opera. We need word of mouth. And Miracle East, Texas, you can click on the link, put in your zip code, shows you what theaters near you. We're on 750 screens opening October 29th. Please support this movie. It's a great family movie. The more people we get to go, the more days we'll get in theaters because, as you know, theater owners don't care what they show. They want to sell popcorn and soda.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, and you mentioned Brave Books. We can go back to that. I want to talk just a little bit more about particularly media and culture and children, right? There it is.
There it is.
Exactly.
Wonder if that would work. You think they could click on that link?
I bet you could. Hold on.
I want to see if that works. They should click on that link.
Oh, yeah, it just worked on my phone. So
love that.
If somebody's watching that, you can do that. It goes right to Brave Books. And look, it's a picture of Kevin Sorbo with Lionhood. Yeah, I love it. So, yeah, talk about this with children, obviously media culture. I know you're a big fan of the Barbie movie. That was obviously great. But maybe we need some stuff that's a little more masculine than that.
Do you know in Hercules, we had 2 spin-off shows. One was Xena in season 3. In season 5, we spun off Young Hercules. And the actor who played me as a teenager was a 20-year-old Ryan Gosling.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I remember watching that.
It got canceled after 2 years. He was a skinny little dude back then. But I'll tell you, I'll be honest. When I worked with him before he got that role, I went home to tell my wife, I said, I just worked with this guy. He's like 19, 20 years old. He said, he's a really talented dude. He's got something. And of course, he was bummed that the show got canceled, but then now he's Ryan Gosling. And he's a damn good actor. So my hat's off to the guy. But in the movie, I know it's made $1 billion because every woman that's old, 70 and younger had a Barbie in their time. Probably 80 or younger. And but I haven't seen it, but every guy that I know have taken their kids or their grandkids saying it just bashes men. It says men are useless. Women, we don't need men. We're superior. We're better. And, it's fine to feel that way. But I honestly think the vast majority of people in the world still want to find a partner that they love. And most of those partners are men and women. Yes, men get together with men, women get together with men. And I said, I don't care what happens. But the majority of people, it's still male and female that get together. And people want to be happy, and they want to find a soulmate, whatever that soulmate may be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's completely true. Speak about stories for young people. You get into Brave Books. This is obviously pivotal, but it shapes the way our young people think. I'm just going back to my kids and thinking of all the stuff that we read, mostly from the 50s. That's like politically incorrect now that they've like banned from bookstores, I guess. But even movies, you show your kids. They got older. We watched Braveheart. It seems like every Mel Gibson movie from the 90s, my kids love. Why is that? The boys are looking for masculine stories, but it also shapes them and who they will become. So why get involved for you? Why get involved with Brave Books? Why was that such an important thing for your story and what you were doing with your time?
I've known Kirk Cameron a long time, and he's got a Brave Book. And I talked about that before. I said, isn't it interesting that Kirk Cameron's getting banned from reading his book to 7 and 8-year-old kids at public libraries. Public libraries say no, but they're more than happy to bring in drag queens to read the 7-year-old. Why? I would love to interview these library people and say, why? Is Kirk Cameron really scary? Is he just a really scary dude to come in and read to your kids? It's so weird. So when they came to me to do my book about Lionhood, this does not bash anybody. Bashes nobody, doesn't bash any group. It's really letting boys be boys, and as far as I'm concerned, let girls be girls. And it's a story about Lucas, the lion cub. He goes out in the woods with his 2 little sisters. The youngest one gets cut by this very, very poisonous plant. He knows that plant's going to kill her. He has no time to run back to his dad, but his dad has taught him the ways of being in the woods and about safety and everything. He knows the only way to save her is this special flower at the top of the mountain. And that's much shorter than going all the way back to the house. So he's got to get past his fear. He's got to get past his insecurities. He's got to find the courage to get past these obstacles, to find his flower and to save his little sister's life. So it's a great story about this little boy finding bravery, stepping into what it's like to be a man, because we are called to be protectors. I mean, honestly, I make a joke about the women, all women army. Who do you want to go into war for you? I know people, I don't want war at all. Unfortunately, it's been around since man has been around.
Yeah.
Cain and Abel, okay? There was only 4 people on the planet at the time. So it's like, it's always been around. So how do you deal with that? How do you make it, how else can we do this unless we show kids what it's like to be a man? We'll show women what it's like to be a woman. And women have equal parts, but it's a different part in the family unit than a man has.
Yeah.
You know, there's not that many women going out throwing footballs and baseball rounds with their kids. I know there are some, but the vast majority is dad with his boys and with his girls. I mean, it's as great as the WNBA is, because I've seen how good these women are. It's pretty impressive. It's still, what brings in the money? The men. What brings in the sport, the money in college sports? By far, the men.
Yeah. Oh, big time.
I mean, you can fight me on that, but it's fact. I mean, it's Duke basketball brings in a lot more money than Duke female basketball. It's just the way it is.
I didn't even know they had a female team.
Oh man, it's crazy. And there's a reason why there's a difference in the pay structure.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't get the same amount of money for commercials. You don't get the same amount of money for ticket sales. I mean, it's weird that you can post all this truth in front of people and they just want to fight you on it. Very strange.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's completely crazy.
Yeah.
Kevin, we'll kind of wrap things up here, but I want to ask you a few questions about the political season upcoming. I know you've spoken to that. I guess what's your take, what's your read, how important is this, and what's coming down the pipeline for this nation politically?
Well, every year, I think the last 3 elections, we say this is the most important election we've ever had, and they all were. This is by far the most important election. And that's why we got to get rid of voter fraud, and I think both sides are guilty of voter fraud. I don't understand why the conservatives aren't fighting this. Get rid of voter fraud. No more mail-in voting. It's so easy to cheat in mail-in voting. It's obvious. So get rid of it. And we need term limits. But look, Sam and I, my wife and I, we're homeschool advocates. She travels the country, talking about homeschool. We got invited to 2 amazing events coming out next month. One's at Liberty University with a very high roster of a lot of big names. We got invited. She's going to talk about homeschooling versus public schooling. I'm going to talk about the culture war that Hollywood has invaded upon us, and the movies that I'm doing, and like what the Irwin brothers are doing to fight it back against the culture, cancel culture that Hollywood is. And then we got invited up to New Hampshire, where all the GOP candidates are going to be. And so I'm hoping to get up on stage. Obviously, when they're on TV, I'm not going to be up there, but I want to get on stage with them and get in the middle of them with my wife and I and make that my Christmas card. I really do. I think it'd be pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I'm honored to be part of that. People can go online and look up this stuff, but there's some amazing speakers on top of the GOP candidates that are going to be there. I'm sure President Trump probably won't show up at that one either. But I look at what they've done to this guy, and that Republicans are intimidated by him as well. Here's a guy that since he announced in 2015 he's running, every single day he gets attacked. Every single day. No president has ever had this kind of attacks on him. It's unbelievable. It's just crazy what we're doing. And I'm going to keep fighting it, and it's going to be interesting for me doing those 2 events. I'm looking forward to it.
You think he has the best shot to win?
If we have an honest election, yeah, certainly.
Well, that's
Biden. I mean, during those, when they did the debates, I'm sure they just jacked Biden up with B12 shots and whatever else. Just even get him on stage. But I feel sad for the guy because he's obviously losing his mind. He's obviously got Alzheimer's moving in. You see how confused he gets and walking around. I love how the fact that the liberals said, we got to get rid of these old white men in office, and they put an older white man in office.
They're having a stroke while they're speaking to us.
Yeah, it's just so to me, it's and he brings in a vice president with Harris, who was the first person voted off back in 2020 when the Democrat primary was going on. 98% of Democrats didn't want her as president, and now she's a heartbeat away.
Yeah,
And he says, I'm going to put a woman of color in the Supreme Court. I don't care who goes in the Supreme Court. Don't you want to just put the best person, period? She wouldn't even answer the question, can you define a woman? Why can't you find, what's the definition of woman? I'm not a scientist.
I'm not a biologist.
I'm not
Yeah.
a biologist. And I'm going, it, the world's laughing at us. I mean, they really are. It's absolutely crazy and insane. And I know I keep saying it over and over again, but I do speaking events a lot. I do a lot of pro-life speaking and Christian education. And the first thing I say, I got to say this because I want to make some more people angry at me.
Yeah.
I get up on stage and I go, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. And if I use the wrong pronouns, I don't care.
I really don't care.
And that's how I start.
That's fantastic. Kevin, as we wrap this up, I want to ask you one final question. As you're looking out at the nation, especially to young men and to fathers, a lot of people can feel like, look, the world's against me, super discouraging out there. Media's against me. Public schools are against me. What do you say to these guys to encourage them to not be afraid, but to move forward, be courageous men, and ultimately, like the Apostle Paul said, act like men? How do you encourage them to do that?
Stop letting people set your limitations and stop letting government control you with fear. The Bible, the only person to fear is God. You don't have to fear all this other stuff going on. Fear is an amazing weapon, and government knows how to use it, and they use it over and over again. And take your kids out of public schools. They are pits of doom for your kids. Stop using it as a babysitting service to indoctrinate your kids. 2 million more families are homeschooling now because of COVID. 2 million. 2 million more families because they saw really how crappy our public schools are and what school boards are doing. You know, they take out the books you're talking about from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, but they're going to bring books in there about two men together and how to give a blowjob to third graders.
Yeah.
You know what? Let them find that out on their own if they have to. You know, it's just like, you know, they will learn about sex as they grow up. They don't need your, when they're 8, 9 years old, they don't need you pushing that down their throat, so to speak.
No, absolutely. Well, Kevin, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Of course, we will include links in the show notes for everywhere people can find your movie and your books. Sir, we definitely appreciate it. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Bravebooks.com and sorbostudios.com. We'll see you there. God bless you guys.
Absolutely.